Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference how this video performs in the YouTube algorithm. So this time around, we're going to do something a little bit different with hot takes. From here on out, Rudy is going to be selecting these takes for me and I'm going to be reacting to them raw rather than having some sort of preconception of the take ahead of time. You're just going to get my live reaction to the batshit crazy things that you guys say. The Golden State Warriors are wasting Curry's final years of his prime by refusing to move on from Klay and Draymond. Their focus on veteran players as opposed to young talent is going to cost them any future playoff success. I agree with this to a certain extent. I also understand where that inclination comes from for the Golden State Warriors because that obviously was the formula that got them success in the past, and I understand why they would feel the need to replicate it. Obviously, they still managed to win a title with that being, a big chunk of their core. I think there's a balance to be struck there, and I think you could just as easily argue that they should have just traded those young players for more veteran talent. Ultimately, though, it is a little sad that Steph Curry can ultimately compete for titles and be the lead player on a championship team even still, and the rest of the roster kind of hasn't kept up with him in that regard. So yeah, I do think they might need to move on from those guys, but it's also sad and I don't want to see it happen. It's kind of like a Tony Parker on the Hornets type of ordeal. No one wants to see that. It might be the right move in terms of potentially getting another title out of Stephen Curry. Wemby and Chet will be like Magic and Bird in terms of competing with each other. Well, Magic and Bird were kind of taking turns within the top 3 players of the league being the best in the league. I don't know if Chet will quite be cracking top 5 when he's at his peak. I do think Wemby definitely could, but I do understand why there would be a rivalry between them. I just don't know if it's really, I don't think anyone could make a comparison to the Magic Bird rivalry in the modern context of the NBA. I just don't think that's something that will ever be replicated again because the rivalry of Bird and Magic alone pretty much saved the NBA entirely and made it the global product that it is. At least put the legwork for it to be big in America, for it to expand from there. So I honestly just don't like comparing any rivalry to that of Magic and Bird, but they're definitely going to be a rivalry. They're just too similar of players and they exist in the same conference, so definitely see where you're coming from. From 3 Cone, his hot take is Thunder. I agree. I definitely agree. That's a good take. Alperen Sengun is a star. Well, he's young and he's already putting up 20, 10, and 6, I think is around the ballpark that he is at. I definitely think he can be a star level player in the near future. I feel like he's still kind of on the borderlines of that. 20 points per game is not what 20 points per game was 10 years ago, But ultimately, yeah, I think he's a great offensive player. I love his utilization as offensive hub. As a big man, I've said this before that I think playmaking from big men is going to become a more and more prevalent part of the game. He's probably going to be a very big part of that. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, when healthy, are the best superstar duo in the NBA. Nobody is on their level collectively. If you want to argue from a pure talent perspective, I don't disagree with this. However, I don't view duos as simple as the idea of just what they are at collectively. It's not just about how talented both of them are combined, but also how their talents bounce off of each other, how they make each other better. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't suggest that Durant and Booker are, getting in each other's way or anything like that, but they're also not enhancing each other's abilities as much as they could if they had more different skill sets. Obviously, Dame and Giannis has not looked great thus far, but at least in theory, what that duo can be is 2 skill sets that are dramatically different that can make either side better in that equation. An example of one that just won a title would be, Jokic and Jamal Murray. Very different skill sets that they use to bounce off of each other to make both of them better players. I don't know that Booker and Durant are significantly better on the floor when the other player is there outside of the other player just drawing more attention from the defense. The Orlando Magic deserve the same hype that OKC is getting right now. Currently the best defense in the NBA, and that is without Wendell Carter Carter Jr. I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one. While I do think the Orlando Magic are one of the best young cores in the NBA, they're not nearly as competitive as OKC is right now. While they might be a good defense, the offense is not great. Three-point shooting's real bad. And if I'm just projecting what these teams look like 5 years from now, I'm very confident the OKC Thunder are a better team with the current core. Now, obviously, plenty of things can change for Orlando. Like, I think 5 years from now, you can change nothing about the Thunder roster and just have those same guys, but like actually hitting their peaks, and that's a championship roster. I think the Orlando Magic, as they are right now, and then just 5 years into their peak, that will be a good playoff team, but not a contender, not a legitimate one anyways. I think Paolo has a high ceiling, but I don't think it's as high as SGA's. I think Franz Wagner has a high ceiling, but I don't think it's as high as Chet Holmgren's. And I don't think whoever their third guy would be, whether it's Wendell or whoever, is as good as J-Dub will be. So no, I'm not going to say it's the same thing. But Orlando deserves more credit. I'll say that, just not as much hype as OKC. OKC is well deserving of all of their hype. LaMelo Ball is the best guard in the East. He is a top 5 point guard in the NBA. His team is all him. If he isn't scoring or creating, they don't score. He's all NBA easily if he had literally anyone else, and the fact that the Hornets haven't added talent in now 4 years is why he and other stars leave these teams. And he's showing the stats of LaMelo over the past 7 games. He's averaging 31 points and 8 assists, and in spite of that, the Hornets have gone 1-6. Offensively speaking, Charlotte has looked really good, but they're the worst defense in the entire NBA, and while LaMelo's certainly not helping that side of things, it's also really not his responsibility as the lead creating guard on this team. And yeah, they really have done nothing to make this team more talented. It's pretty much been the same song and dance every single year. I'm tired of people having dumb takes about LaMelo and how good he is because of this incompetent garbage franchise. Is he a top 5 point guard in the NBA? I'd have to put the list out there, but he's probably in the conversation. Best guard in the East, I'm going to give Tyrese Halliburton that title. Sorry, but other than that, if you want to have him at number 2, I would not argue with you, especially with Jalen Brunson being not very good right now. Speaking of Tyrese Halliburton, this is way back in 2021, and you said, holy bad take, Batman. Now, first of all, what a cringe reply by me. Second of all, the original take was Halliburton should be the starting point guard together with Buddy Hield, trade De'Aaron Fox for a great wing, considering Fox's value, or some proven big like Sabonis to assist Holmes in the front court. Well, that's a weird amalgamation of takes because neither of us were correct there because they traded Halliburton for Sabonis. I didn't think Halliburton was going to be as good as he is. I thought he was going to be a good point guard for sure. I think I even said that he could be better than Fox in a couple of years, but I'm also always one, especially if it's a young player, where it's like if I have the guaranteed of this young player that I already know is good versus one who's more of a hypothetical, I'm sticking with the guaranteed, and I would be perfectly okay with that consequence. You know, ultimately you got De'Aaron Fox and still Sabonis, so I think it worked out for both sides. I don't know why we have to work so hard to make this a winner and loser scenario. The Lakers will make the finals. They strike me as a 45 to 50 win regular season team that will take it to another level in the postseason. I think LeBron will have his best individual performance in a playoff run since 2018. Well, 45 is you really don't make the finals if you win 45 games unless you get an extreme outlier like the Miami Heat last year. They did make the conference finals with probably about that amount of wins last year though, so maybe I can see that. But the Lakers do not impress me enough to be like, yeah, they're better than the Nuggets. The litmus test is, are you better than the Nuggets? And I'm going to say a hard no on that one. There's no Draymond without Steph, and there's no Steph without Draymond. No. I think Steph can exist within pretty much any system because he really more or less is the system, and Draymond is a great piece within the Steph system. That doesn't necessarily make Draymond not valuable outside of that context. However, if we're going to pick one of these two who needs the other far more than the other, it's Draymond Green. For what it's worth, you know, in terms of defensive contributions, you could argue the Warriors would be less successful without one or the other, like obviously. Draymond was essentially the Stephen Curry of defense, I guess, for a while. But no, I think Steph would have been an electric player one way or the other. I don't think Draymond really has much to do with that. He's a good passer, but there are plenty of other good passers in the NBA. And this last one's from Kevin Kevin Durant, I didn't ask for this. He didn't reply to me. I'll get him one day. When I get you paid, you don't DM me and send a small percentage to my Cash App, but when them parlays don't hit, I'm every name in the book. Y'all ain't real. Kevin Durant, you make like $40 million a year. Shut up. That's all I gotta say. Shut up. You make 40 mil. You can handle some people bitching about their parlays. Yeah, I see. I mean, I'm not gonna read that. All right, that's the end of the video. Bye.